the more you master how these things work and live with these filters and onboard effects and 4-band EQs and 3-band isolators, the better and more personal you can make your DJ sets.
A lot of us DJs are ripping vinyl to take on tour with us, or you might be playing a track that's just come straight out of the studio.
And a lot of the time you end up boosting the gains and
pushing into the red,
pushing it far too much into the red. So to have a compressor that you can give that a little bit of a push, then that's amazing. Also for old vinyl rips, which we do as well.
Dance music from the past, from disco to early house, was all analog. So there are a lot lower in sound output.
And using that compressor basically made it sound like it could have been made yesterday, you know, really bring it to life.
If you've got a waveform with claps and lower parts like that, it brings up the bits that are quiet without bringing up the bits that are already high. So you'll feel more volume in the body of the song rather than the whole thing just becoming louder, which obviously causes tracks to clip.
It will work as something that has been recorded from 20 or 25 years ago and give it the very best sound possible.
It doesn't just turn it up, it gives it life. It breathes life into the tune. Turns down the things that are too loud and brings up the things that are too quiet.
People have different views on what good sound is, depending on the musical landscape of the city or the country.
They always set up a booth EQ for what they think is what you want to hear.
I'm not stuck with what the engineer or the sound guy has set the EQ of the bass to be.
There's so many times, especially with festivals, you get to the booth monitors are too bassy.
And then in some places it'll be too many highs, and which is what really screws up your hearing.
Got a hole in my right eardrum, so for me, mids and tops can sometimes be too harsh on certain systems. So I may use that in times to bring that off a touch.
I can now finally get my headphones off, and then I feel more connected to the crowd.
The 4-band EQ now is like essential for us in mixing.
You get rid of the low, but the low mid's still there, you know, sticking its nose in. So sometimes it's nice just to be able to curve things off slightly.
You're accenting different aspects of a song for emotional response.
Because I layer so much, I really need sometimes just to kill the sub frequencies without killing the kick drum, for example.
Having the extra option of the low end or the low mid makes it easier for me to adjust the quality or the mixing of a track that may or may not be as loud or as perfect as I'd want it to be.
You can tweak up that mid bass, generate some atmosphere before you're bringing in the actual bass.
There's stories of Chicago guys playing with the bass out for like an hour and then like getting it in there again.
DJing isn't just about me performing music to people. DJing is that whole feeling of that the crowd and you creating something together.
On the 900, it's been low pass, high pass on the same knob. So I always go a little bit low pass on the way back. And finally now you've got the whole range, which is fantastic.
I do love having a full sweep of a filter.
And now you have a filter under every channel.
A master filter is nice because there's two of us. We often have more than 2 or 3 channels going at the same time. So to be able to filter everything at once is fantastic. Really lets you be creative and make your own track out of 5 or 6 different elements. A lot of people use the isolators to build the energy, whereas we would use it more as a sound engineering tool to tune the room. The versatility options are endless for this.
When I have 4 or 5 channels coming in at once, I can't like high pass 5 filters at the same time. That doesn't work. And so with that master isolator, I can do that for the entire mix at once, and that makes it a really powerful tool.
Having an isolator is something that, you know, mixes, especially with that a level of technology on it, don't have.
If the room isn't that good and it maybe needs some more highs or more lows or more mids, then you can just add it yourself. You don't have to do it on the EQs itself.
If we feel that our music sits better in a bassier scenario compared to the DJ playing before or after us, I think then we could change that to our own preference, which is very nice.
Just having that isolator to be able to, and you can take everything out, but of everything, and then just with the turn of one knob, bangs back in.
If you're three or four deck mixing and you want to create atmosphere, create sort of a moment in the track where you're dropping the bass out of the whole mix, maybe you've got 3 or 4 tracks going, that's going to be exciting to use.
DJing is channeling emotions.
It's a form of expression.
Creating an atmosphere, creating a mood, creating moments.
I'm really focused on the crowd just to make sure they have a good time. For me, that's like the priority of my sets.